Well, hello, everybody. We are live, and it is April Fool's Day. It's also Hump Day. So I'm thinking about having some pizza today, but I'm not positive. Anyway, so today I want to continue to come on here with things that are relevant, either sharing things, offering information, or bringing on guests that really can help provide more richness to this conversation around just where what we're all going through right now, every single one of us. I was reminded today that it's executive leadership team CEOs, people that are in mail rooms, people that are in the mid-level organization. Every single one of us is impacted one way or another by the virus. And hopefully all of you are staying really safe right now. That's the number one priority. And so I'm glad to be able to do this live while you can be sitting right at your computer and be safe. So today I'm excited to have a special guest on. He and I were both on in Humans First. So we did a kind of a summit meeting in Denver, and it was nice to meet him. And then I came to find out that he actually did a TEDx on adversity as a gift. And of course, I've done a TEDx on transforming adversity into opportunity. And so I thought, wow, what a great time to bring both of us together, two people who've had some interesting journeys, and to share those with you and to hopefully inspire. So now I'm going to bring on Marcus. So this is Marcus. Hello there.
How are you? It's great to see you again. I haven't got to see you since we were with Mike Vacante in Colorado.
Yes, yeah, and it's the sun is starting to part, right? Starting to come out again. It was a little overcast this morning, and I was getting a little bit but now I'm happy that it's there, and I'm so excited to have you. So this is Marcus Aurelius Anderson, and he is a TEDx speaker, international speaker, author, podcast host, lots of things, and we have a lot in common. And when I saw there was a post that happened that I just saw recently, and I think it was maybe you posting something. And it was related to this idea of adversity as a gift. And I thought, wow, that would be kind of compelling to have both of us together. Maybe we can, share some of our stories with people that might join in, and then share some of the strategies that we've used, and also get stuff from people who are actually out there. So let me look, because as you know, I have to look here and see who's on with us at this point, and then people will join, I know, over time, and I'll just continue to catch everybody up. But I have to go into here because inside of the streaming service I have, I can't actually see comments, which is a downfall for this particular one. So I have to go in here and check comments on LinkedIn. So let's see who's here. Okay, so whoever does join us, turn this off and down. All right, so whoever does join us, I want to make sure you tell me where you're joining from. And let me know too, is it sunny? Is it dreary? What does it look like? And at the same time, as we go, I'm going to ask you to interact too with, for example, sharing things you're doing to stay positive during this crazy time of this virus, and what you think to overcome like challenges and adversity in your life. And in the meantime, we'll be talking. So you'll hear us talking. I'll check in here and there, but definitely do that. So I see Louisa. Hey there, Louisa Garrett. Donna Louisa. Tia, ooh, that's my cousin. Hello there. So and I see there's other people. So whoever's joining, just let us know in the comments where you're joining from, and let us know what does it look like. Is it beautiful outside? And hey, it doesn't really matter anyway, because we'll make our own beauty inside of our houses, because that's where we're at, most of us, right? So I'll be checking in here and there, and in the meantime, I'm going to ask Marcus to share with us, because he did a TEDx, and it's related to his story, which is quite amazing. And I wanted to make sure that he can share a little bit of that with those who haven't actually seen the TEDx or don't know him a lot. So let's go with it. So tell us what you think. What's interesting about your story? What do we need to know about your background and why you do the work you do in this overcoming adversity space?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Heather. There's a lot of reasons. Adversity for everyone is universal. It's not unique. It's not a competition. So many people like to kind of one-up each other about how bad they have it sometimes. And that's sort of human nature. So we don't want to beat ourselves up about it. But for me, I faced a tremendous amount of adversity. Whenever I was 40 years old, I was in the military. I was in the infantry. We were preparing to deploy. And I suffered a severe spinal injury that left me paralyzed from the neck down. So when most people, when they're 40 years old, they're having a birthday and they're thinking about their life, their career, their 401k, their marriage, their family, their picket fence, and their 2 cars. For me, I was broke, divorced, bedridden, and paralyzed trying to figure out what do I do with my life now. And I was in this very, as you can imagine, dark place. I was literally suicidal, but I couldn't even act on it because of my physicality. And that was probably the beginning of my real, dance with adversity, as it were. And that's why I do what I do today. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I did the TEDx talk. That's why I always say that adversity is a gift, because the reality is we don't really get a say in it. Just like what we're going through right now, we don't really get to dictate if this is real or not, if we enjoy this or not, if this is convenient or not. It doesn't matter. It's like gravity. So by understanding that and understanding that this is something that is inevitable, now we understand, okay, so now what are we going to do with it? Now what do I do with this? There will naturally be a place, just like with you, like when you were talking about opportunity and adversity. Chaos precedes everything that before there's a big evolution. So we can look at this as something that is a hardship that stifles us and is the ceiling to as far as we go. But if you look, even during the Great Depression, that was the era that created the most millionaires, simply because it forced us to step outside of our normal confines. We had to think outside the box. We had to evolve. We had to change. And we understood quickly that what we were doing before wasn't working. It was antiquated. So we have to level that thing up. And that's why adversity is a gift, because it pushes us to do those things that we wouldn't have normally done on our own volition.
I'm curious to know, what were some of the steps what did you do? Because obviously going from paralyzed, broke, divorce, like all that, there's a journey there, right? We don't want to understate what that looked like. And there's obviously a lot of pain, heartache, doubt, setbacks that were happening there. And what were you doing to kind of move past those points in that journey?
Well, it's just like everything else. Right now, there's probably a lot of people that are going through those kind of 5 stages. And for me, the very first one was anger. I was very, very angry. I was in denial at first, but then I was very angry. And I was angry. I was projecting it at the people that were around me, but I was actually angry with myself, because being paralyzed at 40 years old and having all this physicality taken away from you helps you see all the things I'd taken for granted. I took time for granted. I assumed that I would always have time. I assumed that I would always have the physicality. I assumed that I would always have the talent to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And they say you don't know what you got till it's gone, but that's not true. We know what we have. We just assume that it will always be there. And so for me, I went through a lot of anger. I went through depression. And then I went to this place where, after months of lying in a bed, I realized I could either stay angry for the rest of my life and be that person, or I could change my mindset and shift this thing into something different. And we've all read things and we've all heard, whether it be philosophical things or religious, but frankly, all that information that comes to your mind when you're in the heat of it sounds like a bunch of flowery, junk. It's like, it's easy for you to say that because you're not in this. And that's why I want everybody to understand that adversity binds us if we so choose. It allows us to get stronger and closer as a group, as a family, as an organization, even if we're at distance right now. So for me, what I did was I had to find something to counteract all the anger. And for most people, the opposite of anger is love. But where I was very much isolated. So I did the next best thing. And for me, that was something that was rooted in love. And I went to gratitude. And I know what everybody's thinking. Everybody talks about gratitude, Marcus. I write it in my journal and I do it. But most people that are doing gratitude, in my opinion, and from my experience of the people that I've worked with and the companies and the organizations and CEOs that I've worked with, it's lip service at best. It's easy to just kind of parrot the things that you like. But the reality is, gratitude is like love. It has to be unconditional. It has to be 360. So if we think of somebody, Heather, you can think of somebody that you love unconditionally right now. And even if you don't really like a decision that they made, or that they anger you, you will still love them. And gratitude is the same way. If all I do is cherry pick the things in my life that I like and I'm grateful for only those things, that's not how gratitude works. You have to be grateful for everything. Frankly, because if I'm only grateful for half of the things in my life, that means there's half of my life that I'm not learning from. That means there's half of my life where those opportunities are lost on me, where frankly, there's lessons that have to be learned. And for better or for worse, pain and discomfort are the best ways for us to learn. So for me, once I started finding genuine gratitude, and I didn't have a whole lot, but what I did was I took myself out of the equation and I said, okay, if I'd have been deployed in Afghanistan when this happened, for every one man that is injured in combat, it takes 2 men to drag him to safety. So if I'd have been injured in Afghanistan, because I believe this injury would have happened irrespective of where I was in the world. So that means my team would have been compromised. That means the next team would have been compromised. That means the helicopter that would have had to fly into a hot zone to get me would have been compromised. And all of those people's lives would have been put in harm's way. And when I saw it like that, and it wasn't about me, I actually said this, and I couldn't believe it's like I was outside myself hearing it, but I said, wow, I'm lucky. And once I started seeing that as the beginning, that was my epiphany. And then I became grateful for the bed that I may never get out of and the room I may never leave. And a week after I started seeing genuine gratitude in all of the adversity that I had, I started getting a little bit of feeling back in my left hand. Now, it wasn't a lot, but it was the beginning for me. That's where my hope started.
And you're right there. We hear a lot about gratitude, and like this story here, I think exhibits the truth behind like the reality of real gratitude. And that is so, so in my TED talk, I talk a lot about reframing and this idea of, taking irrational thoughts and replacing those with more rational thoughts. Or for example, like this idea of your bed. I mean, it's like, now it's this thing that hugs you. Now it's this thing that keeps you safe, and it might ensure your full improvement, I guess. It's probably not the word I'm trying to say. Healing. Yeah, recovery. Thank you. And so it's when you start to see that bed, that first you're like, I'm stuck in it. And now you're like, wait a second, like the home I'm in now. Thinking about this now, it's like, I have a home. So I'm stuck at home and I can't go to do this and that. And it's like, wait a second, I have a home. And I have that in my refrigerator, and I have that this and there. And when we start to see things that way, it lightens things up. So for those who are watching right now and tuning in, I'm on with Marcus Aurelius Anderson, and we're talking about just how to transform adversity into opportunity, or look at adversity as a gift. And we were trying to do it with the lens that we both bring for our different stories that we have. And of course, I just chose today. My husband's like, why are you wearing all that coral and acting like you're at the beach? I've got like my jewelry on, and I have the ocean behind me, and I live in Colorado. And it's because I wanted to set my mind right. I am at peace when I'm at the best peace I am when I'm in front of the water, in the ocean, near the ocean, hearing that water. And so I thought I'm just gonna automatically do that. And I may change into something else later. It just depends on what I'm in the mood for. And I think that's the key, is that with all of this that's going on, we're at home. Yes, we're at home. But we can change the way that environment is, and we can start in our minds with that, right? That's kind of the most important starting place. Let's see who's here. Okay, so we've got Adam Posner, hello there. Glad you're joining. Marion Barnick, hello and thank you. I don't know, Karik, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right. Karik Pretorius. And then it says, for every one man injured in combat, it takes 2 men to drag him back. This got me. That's what he said as he was responding to that. Asila, hello there. Andrew Thompson, I think our emotions can dictate how we feel, and this guy is right. It's about changing our mindset. Donna Louise, wow, you are amazing. How does one handle adversity is different for everyone, and it can push us to do different things differently, and that's good. For me, a life of adversity has become a life of opportunity and growth. Yay for you. I love that. I love hearing that and how you've expressed that too. Okay, so guys, continue to interact, and if there's questions that you have or any other feedback, just continue to provide it there, and I'll keep looking there as well.
And to that one comment, I always talk about it. I say that emotions assassinate the truth. So again, if we're talking about the reframe, right? We talk about Viktor Frankl, how he says between stimulus and response, there is a gap. And within that gap is our opportunity. So if there's a stimulus, I have to decide. I decide what that is, what that means to me. The meaning that I give that evokes the emotion. That emotion leads to thoughts, potentially leads to actions. So just like we're talking about, if the stimuli, if I feel that it's adversity, then it will probably crush me, and I will probably have a pessimistic attitude about it. I don't want to do it. I try to refrain from it. I prolong unnecessarily the suffering that I have to go through. But if I can look at this and say, no, this is, as you say, opportunity. Now it completely changes the way that I look at it. So if I see this cycle of adversity, disempowerment, victim, fear, hesitation, every time I'm introduced to adversity again, that's what I will do. And that's the loop, and that's neurology, and what fires together, wires together, everything that you know about that. But it's the other way as well. If I see this as opportunity, this will make me stronger. This is my chance. Now I look forward to it. So now for us, for you and I, Heather, we go out and we seek adversity, and that is our compass, and that dictates what we do. So if we're able to do that, and if we're able to take our emotion out of it and take our ego out of it, and frankly, take our fear out of it and say, okay, listen, I may not want to do this, but I'm forced to do this. So now, what is this showing me? Where is this shining a light on my weaknesses?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
and
why.
one of the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
No, so what I was going to say is when I think about, so if you think about adversity as opportunity, then you would seek it out. We would normally want to seek out, being paralyzed and being, discriminated against, or being like whatever that might be, whatever that obstacle is for all of us. But if we automatically are thinking, as you're talking about, Marcus, as this is a learning opportunity, this is an opportunity to advance, to grow, to expand, to move forward, then it changes everything, right?
Yes.
So people ask, so my background, my mom is white and Jewish. My dad is Black and Christian. And I have an Orthodox Jewish background. So my mom's side of the family is Orthodox Jews. And when my mom and dad got married, that was not a happy thing for that side of the family in particular. And then I came along, and it was kind of like, okay, this is going to be a constant reminder. And in all of that, though, I was an outsider in my own family. I wasn't allowed to go to any family events. No pictures hanging on the wall. If I would visit, there would be nobody outside of our family present there. I would just never go to weddings, bar mitzvahs, funerals, any of that stuff. And so I spent kind of a lifetime of feeling not good enough, feeling, again, like an outsider, like an outcast, like my voice wasn't important. And interestingly enough, I don't feel like I was highly emotional in the moment. I think there was a kind of almost a lack of awareness. And then when there was an awareness, there was almost like a matter of fact mindset for me, kind of like, this is how I live. This is where it's at. This is how it is, But I chose not to allow kind of that feeling, that feeling that pervades still today, by the way, of not feeling good enough, to be the thing that stopped me. It actually was the thing that propelled me forward. And so I think it was like some of the pain of that reality. So that emotion that you talk about did the opposite of what it could have done for some, which is completely debilitate people. Like some people could be completely stopped in their tracks by having some of that outcast stuff happening, and many other things that happened that I didn't talk about in that talk. But at any rate, choosing to see it as like, I could look at this and I could say, I want to be that kind of person. I'm going to be not open-minded. I'm going to be someone who judges people, leaves people out. I'm going to be that person. Or I'm going to choose to be the person that gives grace to others. I'm going to choose to be the person that forgives others for maybe their lack of awareness or their education. And so I walk that way in life. And I had a friend, she's my best friend in college. And she said, I don't see why, how could you love that family or even talk to that family anymore? And I said, listen, I think it's their lack of education that puts them in the place that they're at. It's their lack of understanding and empathy that puts them in their place. And I can't change that about them, but I can change me. I can change how I respond to their lack of education. I can change how I respond to whatever they're doing to me. I can change that. And so then it's funny because now in my life as a manager of people, and now helping other managers and leaders do this good work of leading others, I'm able to help people because I have that empathy. I was in the place where people weren't listening to me, where I wasn't valued, where I wasn't important or respected. And I was like a person that was in a distance, not associated with somebody who should have been from the beginning, like the closest part of my world, which is that immediate family. And I wasn't. And so now I bring people in really closely, kind of quickly, and build trust right off the bat. And it was because of that. So it's all because of that background. So how could I not like that adversity? How could I not see that as a gift? Because now I'm able to do this and help with others. To me, it's just like right in my face. Now, having said that, earlier you talked about emotions and how emotions can kind of crush all of it. And here's what I say. That is absolutely true. I do believe that as you did, you had to give yourself some time to work through the thing that's in front of you. So for example, right now with us in coronavirus, I had about 2 weeks where I wasn't writing my book. I wasn't getting dressed every day like in regular clothes. I was kind of sitting in my PJs. I was just like, woe is me. And finally I was like, wait a second. It's exactly what I do every single point of my life. It's like, wait a second. I can choose how I feel every day. I can't impact, as you talked about, Marcus, I cannot impact that coronavirus is everywhere and that people outside are being impacted and that the world and the economy is, I can't impact that. But I can impact my own mindset. I can impact the things I get up and I do every day. And so now what I've been doing now for the last couple of weeks is making sure I get up and get down in the basement and do my workouts. I was already doing that, but making sure I do that, get up, do the shower, get up and have like the process of knowing what I'm going to do every day. It makes all the difference because I set my mind right first. What are your thoughts on that?
That's exactly it. The power of intention is very powerful. So if I'm just waiting for things to happen to me, if I'm reacting to fires, of course, I'm going to feel like a victim. Of course, I'm going to feel defensive naturally. But like you say, if I open up my day with intention, if I open up my day with something physical to stimulate my body, to stimulate my neurology, to get me on the right track, now I'm already winning. And now no matter what else happens that day, I've already won the first 2 hours of my day. And now, again, before the day starts the night before, I have the intention. I know what I want to accomplish. I know what the goal is. So the reality is for all of us, without a deadline, time means nothing. So by giving yourself these certain time frames, whether it be blocks, whether it be knowing that you have a client, an interview, a phone call coming up, that sets you with that correct intention. But if you're sitting there and you say, I'm wearing the same clothes that I've worn for the last 2 days, I have watched every series on Netflix, I cannot watch the rest of the Tiger King one more time, all these things, right? You have to have something that's going to give you something that makes you feel empowered. And we were talking also, you mentioned empathy. The reality is this: if you learn the lesson from adversity, your empathy will increase exponentially. The word empathy and empty are very similar, and this is why. With empathy, you have to empty yourself of expectation so that you can be present for that person. You have to empty yourself of judgment, of fear, of even opinion, and just be there for that person. And if you can do that, that is probably the most empowering thing that you can do for somebody, especially right now. And if you don't think this makes any sense, think about a time that you've fallen down when you needed help and somebody was empathetic and they helped you, whether it be financially, spiritually, physically. How did that affect you? How did you feel about that person? By doing that, you're able to change the trajectory of that one person's life, that one person's day. And just like Heather mentioned, your mindset will affect that one person. But here's the reality: you will be changing the people around you by the way that you lead. Your actions dictate the people around you. They dictate the way that they feel. You ever had somebody walk in the room and it's like, oh, this person walks in and their smile lights up the room and everybody's happy. And it's like, oh, there's Heather. But we've all seen it the other direction. When a person walks in, you're like, there's Heather. Don't look at her. Don't look at her. Hi, hey. Oh, you're not. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Wow. Yeah, that's horrible. Wow. Yeah. So what does that do? That changes everything. That changes the entire dynamic. So you have to decide what it's going to be for you. And if, just like you were saying, I had Ed Might Light on my show, on my Epic Achiever, my Conscious Millionaire Epic Achiever podcast. It released today. And he talks about neurology. He talks about the reticular activating system. And the example that he used was this idea that if you're looking for a blue car online to purchase, mysteriously, you'll start seeing blue cars everywhere that you look. Now, there's not any more blue cars, okay? But it's that we're aware of them, that we are cognizant of them, and that our reticular activating system starts looking for those things. So just like you say, I do see adversity everywhere around me, but I do see adversity as opportunity. I do see adversity as a gift. So the more adversity that's around me, in my opinion, it's a high value target. It's a target rich environment. That's what I get. And that's what we have to do. And that's the way you have to look at it. And no, it's not always easy. No, we are all going through hardship. Yes, there is uncertainty, but when you're going through the adversity of uncertainty, you have to be even more intentional about the things that you can control. You don't have to watch the news 24/7. You can find out plenty. All right. I think we all understand that we need to wash our hands, we need social distancing, and that this thing is not going to just go away overnight. However, you don't need to give yourself this intentional anxiety over and over again. Do the things that you can do. Do something physical. Change what you can change. Control the things that you can control, and the things that you can't control, just understand that that's the thing you can do about that. It's like worrying about the rain. I can't worry about the rain, but I can be prepared when I go outside. I can understand that it may be there. I can have an umbrella, and that's what we have to do right now, especially.
That's so true. Yeah, the intentionality part is really quite critical, because the world, even me. I mean, I find, so I'm setting out to write this next book, and I am telling you the first 2 weeks I let with the whole sitting around being woe is me and all these other things that are going on. I completely paused myself, and finally I said, I have got to get to work on this. I have a deadline, and I have to, and the people are depending on me, and I'm depending on myself, and I want this to get done. And so, like, little by little, I'm intentionally going, okay, I need to spend a certain amount of time every day on that, in addition to the other things. But with the work that Marcus and I do, there's social media. We're getting pinged all the time. We're posting things. We do our own podcasts. There's a lot of these things that can be considered distractions on top of things that maybe work we could get done for clients. And I mean, one of the things, there's adversity that affects all of us. So even though we're here and we're on LinkedIn Live, and we're presenting with these these stories and these different strategies, we are impacted. Our businesses are impacted. But the interesting thing about it, because we just had a conversation before we hopped on live, and it was like, well, our speaking engagements, we are speakers. Our speaking engagements, a lot of them went away. Some of them we still have, depending on the what happens. But we were both like, well, but anyway, let's keep going. Let's keep going. So there's a trick. I talk about it. I liken it to, I think of it as a switch for me, a switch in my mind that I'm in. There's a realization of a thing that happens, like a layoff or a furlough or something like that. And there's that realization, and there's the feelings that take place in there. And I believe you have to allow some of those feelings to kind of come in and then go out. So entrance and then exit, because you can't ignore them. This is not like happy, positive time. This is feel it, and then find a way to release that and be intentional about setting up a new path for yourself. And so that switch is that thing that you do where you're like, okay, this thing happened, but this is another way to look at it. And it's a switch in your mind, and you control the switch. So I think with all of this, with the news that Marcus was talking about, with our friends, people we talked to on the phone, they are right now are controlling our switches a lot, so that our mental state, our emotional well-being is really compromised. So we get to choose who actually controls that switch. Know that you control that. And so I think that's what both of Marcus and I bring to the table when we're talking about looking at adversity as a gift, transforming it into an opportunity. And I'd like for anybody that's watching right now, maybe ask something from us as far as tips or strategies, but also share what you're doing currently to stay positive or to stay kind of forward thinking, intentional in your day. And maybe even a story or something that, an issue that you're going through, and maybe we can talk about it. Because I'd want to make sure, since we're here, and I think we have another 10 minutes or so with both of us on here, that we can answer that for you. So let me look and see if there's anybody who's going to do that. I see somebody from South Africa. Yes, and she says it's about love. It's about love, and it is about love. Loving ourselves and loving the world, loving everything. Like, in the end, it is. Because even with this that's going on, I mean, I'm seeing so many positive posts from people about all the great things that are happening with their family as it relates to this. So they're with their kids. They're actually eating dinner with their family. They hadn't been doing that for a long time. They're seeing them before 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever. I have 4 kids, and there are 6 of us spread across the house, and I'm in my basement. And my basement's a mess. You wouldn't know that, though, because I have my little pretty drop right here. And so, but we had to make the best of it. I'm in an unfinished basement. This is where I do my workout, and you just have to make the best of what's there. But it's been a lot of good things. I get to make lunch for my kids in the middle of the day. When was I ever able to do that? So it's a lot of positive.
That's it. And how many people right now have been complaining about they don't have enough time? How many of them have a stack of books that they're still not reading? How many of them are working on a project or a book or a course, whether it be creating a course, or maybe you bought that course 3 months ago and you got through the first module and you're not applying it? Right now is a huge opportunity for everyone to do all those things that you've always said that you wanted to do. And if you're not acting on them, then you need to ask yourself, Why? I mean, it could be anything as simple as spring cleaning to, again, trying to get through and have that conversation that you're trying to avoid. People, the answer that you're trying to find right now is hidden in the adversity that you are avoiding in this very moment. So you have to ask yourself that question. Again, like Heather's saying, feel the emotion. It's okay. It doesn't mean you have to just completely be like oblivious to everything else, but ask yourself, why is this here? Why is this pushing me? Why is this forcing me to look at this? Because now is a huge opportunity for all of us as human beings. Here's what happens. We have adversity over here, right? And our desire is to get away from it. So as soon as we face it, we want to say, oh, I felt that, I get away from it. Like a child that touches a hot stove. But the reality is, if we can stay there with it, just a moment, just be present while the wound is open and say, what can I find out from this? What can I learn from this? Why does this hurt so much? And now that will give you an opportunity to turn that into, maybe it's because X, Y, and Z. Maybe it's because I haven't been able to have dinner with my family. Maybe I need to have a conversation with my spouse, my partner. Maybe I need to reach across the country and get on a Zoom call with my parents that I haven't talked to, or that friend of mine, or my kids, whatever the case may be. There's a huge amount of opportunity in here if you so choose. And if you choose to see this as a blessing, as a gift, it shall be. And if you want to see this as something that's a hardship, guess what? You're right.
It shall be. And I love that. It looks like, Andrew, yes, the ripple effect. Donna Louise has been writing on business in quarantine because there's continuity, whatever our next step. Creek says, control what you can, meaning your own choices. You cannot control others. And that is so true. Let's just, I think we should commit today, for those who are on here now, we need to commit to controlling what we can. We need to commit to controlling our mind, our choices, as Creek said, and our behaviors, just the actions that actually come from those mindsets, because it all does flow. As Marcus was saying, it's like, if you think that's the way it is, that's exactly the way it is, whether it's good or bad. And when you are choosing to put yourself in that more kind of forward-thinking, intentional, positive thinking mode, it's more easily to move forward. I find that with some people, it's more now because we're all in it. So it's becoming obvious, people in my circle, immediately or not, where something will happen, and then all of a sudden they're just like, oh, and they just get so, and I'm just like, wait a second, stop. And it was what Marcus was talking about. Stop. Let's stop. Let's remove the emotion for a moment. And then once you remove their emotion, now, funny thing, I talk about emotion in the work I do in the employee space, because with leaders, I let them know that employees will stay with the organization because of how they feel, how you make them feel. And if they feel a certain way. So emotions are a huge part of the human experience, right? And unfortunately, you have, from an organizational perspective, they have to plan for that kind of emotional or sentiment, the impact that they're giving the people that they lead. In this time, we have to learn to regulate our emotions. From an emotional intelligence perspective, we have to emotionally self-regulate what's happening to us. And what Marcus was talking about, which is not watching the news nonstop, not like talking to those friends that are negative, doesn't mean you can't support your friends or show empathy, but minimizing that exposure. And that's kind of, it's say that as we have this virus everywhere and we're trying to minimize our exposure and social distancing, right? We have to minimize our exposure to this thinking that's limiting, to this thinking of fear. Right, Marcus?
That's it. And again, even with empathy with an employee or with a family member or with a friend, you have to understand that you can be empathetic without being a doormat. You can be empathetic and still maintain your own self, keep yourself intact, maintain your own boundaries. Discipline is very much the best form of self-love, because you are reinforcing these things. You are reinforcing a boundary with yourself that I'm going to work out today. I'm going to do this X, Y, and Z today. The same thing with employees. Give that person pragmatic empathy. Give that employee the thing that they need. Feel what they're feeling so that you can better serve them, so that you can better lead them. However, that doesn't mean that you let the employee walk all over you or let them get away with murder. We have to understand this is where we're going. And if you're a leader right now, or even if you're not a leader right now, you're leading somebody. Heather and I talk about that all the time, right? You're leading somebody, whether it be a child, a coworker, whatever the case may be. This is your time to step up. This is your time, because the way that you dictate yourself in the heat of this adversity will dictate how you handle everything else in your life. If you cower, if you're afraid of this, guess what? This is your opportunity to have courage. And if this is your opportunity to learn more about yourself, and if you are able to feel stronger in this moment, that's fantastic. Now, what are you going to do with that? What will you do with that power? What are you going to do with that responsibility?
And when Andrew Thompson was talking about the ripple effect, this is something I'm advising clients now, that when you're talking about this idea of leading, whether it's first and foremost, we have to lead ourselves first. And it's by the things we've already spoken about. So we have to do that first, irrespective of what we do for our family and for anybody else around us. But what we do need to remember, and it's exactly where Marcus is at right now, which is how we show up right now, whether we're leading ourselves, others, both, we're always going to lead ourselves, hopefully. How we are doing that right now has a ripple effect, as Andrew said, a year or two or more down the road. Because what's happening is, what we don't realize is people are watching us, and someone's always watching us. And so what are they seeing? Because we get to choose what it is they see. Remember, this is the control part. We choose what choices we make. So our children, are they seeing a lot of fear, tons of anxiety? Are they seeing a lot of doubt, a lack of faith? Or what are they seeing? Because that's the kind of leadership they're seeing. And then guess what? When one of these things happens again, and it will, it's just the cycle of life, then are they going to replicate what they saw? So it's the children, it's the community, it's your coworkers, it's your employees, it's the leaders. So it's our time, all of us right now in this call, it's our time to shine, our time to lead in a way that is intentional.
Yeah, you have to step up. And the reality is, if you compromise now at this time of adversity, that single decision will bleed over into everything else that you do, from leadership to being a spouse, to being a parent, to being a better husband, a better wife, a better father, a better son. That is what you have to understand. And the reality is, the ripple effect is real. However, you get to decide, do you want to be like a small droplet of water? Or do you want to be an impact, like a thunderstorm? Do you just want to be this small ripple, or do you want to be this tsunami of positivity? That's your decision. And it's about consistent effort, consistent decisions. You keep doing that over and over again. You have to decide every single day how you want to show up. You have to decide every single day to be the better version of yourself, to the best of your capacity, because every single day, adversity in one way, shape, or form is going to ask you, you want to give up? You want to quit? Man, you look tired. Why don't you just take it easy today? Man, you know what? You've been really strict with your diet. Why don't you go ahead and order that pizza? You've been working out really hard. Don't worry about it. And that meditation you've been doing, don't worry about that. Nobody cares about that. Journaling, nah, that book, it'll wait. Listen, people, we don't have a whole lot of time. And I hope that this gives you this urgency to understand what's really important and what's not, and start executing as best that you possibly can with this reckless abandon towards the things that really matter in your life. Because if you're not doing that now, when are you going to do it?
Andrew, I thank you for joining this live again, because I do recall you were on my last live, and that you just recently lost your wife. And I see that you're on again, and you're asking what are some ways to remain positive once you've just recently lost someone. And here's the thing, I think I led it on before, and I just talked about it today, which is you're going to have to allow yourself some time to grieve. You are human. So don't expect that this is going to be an immediate bounce back. This is not what we're professing right here. All of a sudden, this person's gone, and now it's time to be positive. No, I don't think that's the route to go. Now, having said that, I think you are the one who talked about putting goals forward, like having specific goals. And the goals don't have to be big. It could be like, get out of bed. It could be take a shower. It could be brush my teeth. I mean, because at this point, when you've lost someone, there's so much sorrow that's there that it might be debilitating. And so kind of like what Marcus was talking about in his story of being paralyzed, I mean, it is baby steps. So don't take to heart what we're saying, that it means that you're just going to all of a sudden transform in a day or 2 weeks or a month. I don't really know what that's going to be for you. But I would say that, again, taking the little steps, setting the small goals, as you actually told us in the last live, if I remember right, and know that there's a world that's around you that's right here for you too. You don't have to be here. You don't have to do this alone. You can reach out to any of us that are either in the chat right now, and both Marcus and I, because we're all in this together. I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing there. Now, what I did and of course, it wasn't a loss for me in my background. It wasn't a loss of a person, and there was a loss of other things. But I think when I talk about transferring adversity. I'm talking about reframing kind of irrational, negative thoughts with something that's more rational. Doesn't mean positive necessarily, positive in the way we think of like personal development, rah-rah positive. So it might be, for example, I was working with a group of law enforcement people, and they were really feeling bad because the community wasn't perceiving law enforcement in this particular community in California as positive. And so I wanted them to write a list, and this is something that you might want to think about doing. Write a list of all the things, the things that you feel like are barriers right now for you, mental blocks for you. Write kind of a list of those, and then right next to it, start to think of it. And because a lot of those things, they're going to be fears. They're going to be probably a little bit more rational, except for the fact that you just lost your wife. That's rational. That's real. That's real. You can touch that. Okay, so I'm not dismissing that. But if there are thoughts behind that or that are more rational, you replace it now with a more rational thought. So, okay, in this case of law enforcement, okay, they were like, well, they perceive us this one particular way, and it drives me nuts that they perceive us this way, and I feel like there's just nothing we can do about it, and that's how they're going to perceive us. And what we did is, okay, now on the right side, they wrote, okay, well, is there a way for us to change our perception? What can we control? Can we control their perception of us? What can we do? Okay, so then they're like, well, maybe we can come up with our own local radio station or news station that's inside of this particular community that we can control. We can actually help the messages, and we can bring people in the community in with us, and they can see that we're bonding and see that there's a relationship building. So they were able to see this thing where it's like, I don't like this perception. And on the other side, it's like, oh, how can I control that perception? Well, here are the things I can do. I can control. So that's what I would say is go back to the things that you can control, and you can control the small things, and you can control the way you set your goals, as you alluded to us on the last Alive. And what about you, Marcus? What do you think about that?
Yes, Sandra, I'm sorry for your loss. Absolutely. You have to have a certain amount of time, and it's different for each of us, but you need to just wholeheartedly embrace that emotion and feel it, and feel the pain and feel the loss, and just dive into it. Because if you run from it, it will eventually resurface. It will fester like an injury, and it'll be hard for you to get anywhere else after that. And I understand that you don't want to live in sorrow 24/7, but understand that this is something that will take some time, and your time will be unique to you, because there's all kinds of other things that will unravel or attach to that emotion. Having said that, once you're to a place, because it's impossible for us to see adversity as an opportunity when we're in the heat of it. It's impossible to see the gift of adversity while we are in the midst. Once we've gone beyond it and we're able to look back on it in hindsight, now we're able to see it. We're able to say, well, if I hadn't had this relationship, I wouldn't be in this place. If I hadn't have met this person, or if I hadn't had this happen, there's no way that I ever would have ended up where I am now. Having said that, once you're to a place where you can become more accustomed to it, because the pain doesn't go away, but we allow other things in our life to grow bigger so that it doesn't feel as heavy. And that makes it a little bit easier to understand. Understanding that it's not supposed to go away is okay. Understanding that there's going to be memories and smells and songs and activities that will always remind you of that person. The idea is to eventually get to a place to where now when you think of that, instead of making you feel sorrow, it makes you feel joy and gratitude that, man, I remember that. I remember the way that felt. I remember when we first did those things. And by doing those things, it will open up the capacity and give you space to give yourself that pragmatic empathy, and then to continue to do other things in your life that you need to do. And it's a process, and it's not easy, but just understand that that's where your opportunity is by going towards it. By trying to avoid it, it doesn't help you. It actually slows you down. It inhibits your capacity to heal. And then frankly, again, being very intentional about your day, I'll give you 3 things. 1, write out what you want to do, the things that are important to you that day. Number 2, ask yourself right now if the thing that you're doing at this moment is getting you closer to that or further away. And if you're not getting closer to it with the activity you're doing by flipping on Netflix or Amazon, if that's the case, don't beat yourself up, but pivot immediately. Self-audit and get back to where you want to be. And then the 3rd thing is just try to be present. I have CEOs of multi-million-dollar companies that feel bad when they're at work because they wish they were with their family, but when they're with their family, they're worried about work. And what they do is they simultaneously rob themselves of both joy and productivity. But if you can have this down there and write it down and now take responsibility for what you want to do, again, it may just be getting out of bed. It may just be changing your clothes. It may be, I'm going to go outside or onto my porch or whatever the case may be. Understand that those are the things that you have to do. And by doing that, you are taking action. You are taking your life into your own hands and moving forward in a way that serves you. If we just sit there and feel like things are happening to me instead of for me, that's when we're going to stay in that victim loop. And the problem with the victim loop is it's self-perpetuating because we believe our own story. And it's so easy for us to do that. So it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to lie to you. But you have to move forward. Chances are the best way to make this memory of that person sacred is to live the best life that you can right now.
That was beautiful. And I'm thinking too, Andrew, that on the last live I had said, wow, I can't believe you're on here, because I think it just had happened a week before, or it was very soon before. And one thing that I was thinking about after that, and I did reach out to you after, is maybe finding a way to counsel other people who are going through tough times, like either have people that are sick from Corona, or people that have lost their spouses. If you feel like you have the strength, because it might just be like you being the support or the strength for others, could be also the thing that fills you up and makes you feel like there's that purpose for you, that you're able to move forward from that. So I am very grateful that you have joined yet a second time, that you're there to share it. Anybody that's in the comments or anybody that's in there joining, please do reach out to him as well and give him well wishes, and keep praying for him as well, because I appreciate that he's on here. So for those of you over there, I know that we've been on about 46 minutes now, and I really am so grateful for Marcus for joining. I think it's been very valuable. I know it's been valuable for me, and hopefully it has for you too. And remember that even though we're on here now, this will be on my profile. I'm going to share it out, but you can always go in and reshare it out to other people who aren't able to hop on this call because they're on another, zillion other calls right now. And so they weren't able to see this or listen to this live. So you can go ahead and do that. And let's just keep in touch and keep each other in our prayers, and just be safe. That's the key. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you to Marcus. It's been amazing.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Have a great one, everybody. Be well.